So, what are JSX and its benefits in React?
Okay. So basically, the JSX stands for JavaScript XML, and they allow us to write the HTML-like code directly in our React JavaScript code. And this actually make our code easier to understand and maintain. And JSX also help us to spot errors and bugs more quickly. So this is JSX and its
Okay.
benefits in React.
Okay. So, how does JSX enhance the development experience compared to traditional JavaScript?
Uh, okay, so basically the JSX enhance development by actually blending HTML with
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript, and it makes it simpler to visualize the interface directly in the code. And basically this
Mm-hmm.
integrations helps developer to see and to manage the user interface element more efficiently. And this
Mm-hmm.
will actually also reducing errors and making the code process smoother and faster as well. So yeah, this is how the JSX enhance the development experience as compared to the traditional
Okay.
process. Yeah.
Okay. Can you please explain the concept of component lifecycle in a React?
Uh, okay. So the component life cycles in React actually involves three main phases, which is
Mm-hmm.
creations, updating, and removing.
Mm-hmm.
So during
Okay.
the creation phase, the component is built and displayed. And
Mm-hmm.
when we talking about the updating phase, so it's actually occur when the data changes and
Mm-hmm.
it will refreshing the view. And the last one is the removal phase. So it's actually happen when the component is no longer needed and is taken off the screen. So so overall, this cycles helps to manage resource efficiently. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is the
Okay.
concept of component lifecycle.
Okay. So, can you describe a scenario where you would use the component did mount method?
Okay, so yeah, I can describe a scenario. So we would use the component did mount methods in React when we
Mm-hmm.
need to perform actions just right
Mm-hmm.
after the component is added to the DOM. So let's take an example. So it's actually perfect for making network requests to fetch data,
Mm-hmm.
and it will also
Okay.
perfect to setting of subscriptions or initializing the third party libraries so
Mm-hmm.
that need to interact with the DOM. So I
Okay.
think this is the scenario where we use
Mm-hmm.
the component DOM.
Okay. How do you handle state management in React applications?
Okay, so in React applications, we can manage the states by actually
Mm-hmm.
utilizing the use state sheet for a local component state or using the
Mm-hmm.
context for sharing the state across on multiple components. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say for more complex state management libraries like Redux or Mobex, we can use to handle global state across the entire applications efficiently. So this is
Mm-hmm.
how we can handle the state management in React application.
Okay. Okay. What are the differences between local state, global state, and server state?
Uh, Okay, so the local state is data managed within one component, and the
Mm-hmm.
global state is shared across many components in an application. And when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about the server states, it's actually the data that comes from external server that our apps need to function. So just like the user profile or just like the settings, and it is typically the fetching using API. So these are
Okay.
the difference between the local state, global state, and service state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you might use Redux or Context API for state management in a complex application?
Okay. So basically, the Redux and Context API are basically
Mm-hmm.
tools for managing data in complex
Mm-hmm.
applications. So Redux stores all application data in one place, and it will make
Mm-hmm.
it making it easier to manage and update. And when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the context API, so it's also shared data across the app, but
Mm-hmm.
it is simpler and better for smaller data needs. So basically, the both helps in organizing and controlling data flow in an application. So so yeah, this is how we
Okay.
can use the Redux and context API. Yeah.
Okay. Can you discuss the differences between a class component and a functional component?
Okay. So basically the class components are actually older and use
Mm-hmm.
more complex code, just like the classes and methods. And when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about the function component, so they are actually newer and simpler. So by using
Okay.
the functions instead of classes, and
Mm-hmm.
and they also allow us to use hooks to manage the states and other features. So
Mm-hmm.
and they will making them more popular for modern React development. So yeah, this is the difference between the class component and the functional component in
Okay.
React. Yeah.
Okay. 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 So why might you choose a functional component over class component in a new project?
Okay. So we can choose the functional component because it's
Mm-hmm.
simpler and easier to read and write. And functional
Okay.
components also let us to use hooks and which actually making handling states and other features more
Mm-hmm.
straightforward. So they
Okay.
sometimes leads to better performance and more maintainable code in modern React
Mm-hmm.
applications. So this is how,
Okay.
yeah, we can choose the function component.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do hooks in functional components compare to lifecycle methods in class components?
Uh, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, the hooks in functional components provides a simpler way to handle
Okay.
the similar task as the lifecycle method. So,
Mm-hmm.
so hooks like use effects. So hooks just like the use effects, which allow us to perform
Mm-hmm.
side effects, and they will allow us to manage states and more without needing the complex
Okay.
structures of life cycle method. So and it will making our code more cleaner and easier to manage as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Okay.
this is
Okay.
how hooks in function content. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So moving ahead, what is virtual DOM and how does React utilize it?
Okay, so basically
Mm-hmm.
the concept of the virtual DOM is a copy of a real DOM that actually React
Okay.
uses to improve efficiently. So
Mm-hmm.
React makes changes to its virtual DOM first, and then it
Mm-hmm.
will compare it with the real DOM in order to update only the part that has changed. So this will
Okay.
actually makes the apps faster because it will reduce the unnecessary updates and things. So this is
Mm-hmm.
the concept of virtual DOM, and this is how the React utilizes.
Okay. So how does a virtual DOM contribute to React's performance?
Uh, okay, so basically the virtual DOMs actually boost the React performance by actually minimizing the updates to actual web page. So
Okay.
React basically the React change is the virtual DOM first, and then
Mm-hmm.
then it will update the only part of the real web page that actually have changed.
Mm-hmm.
So this
Okay.
selective updating avoids redoing the whole page, and it will
Okay.
making the app faster and more responsive, and it will also contribute to the React performance. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain what happens during the reconciliation process in React?
Okay, so reconciliation in React is a process where the React updates and
Mm-hmm.
user interface by comparing the new element with the current one.
Okay.
So it will actually figure out what changes are needed and what need to update the page efficiently. So so
Mm-hmm.
everything look right before reloading the whole page. So
Okay.
this will also makes our application faster and responsible. So yeah, this is the
Okay.
concept. Yeah.
Okay. So, moving ahead, what is a JavaScript callback function?
Okay, so JavaScript. Yes. So basically, a JavaScript callback function is
Mm-hmm.
basically a function that is passed into another function as an argument.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
this actually allows the callback functions to be called and executed inside the other functions at a later time. So which is
Mm-hmm.
also useful for handling tasks and that takes some time to complete and like loading
Mm-hmm.
data as well. So this is the yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you explain how callbacks are used in asynchronous operations?
Okay, so basically the callbacks are used in asynchronous operations in order to handle the
Mm-hmm.
tasks that take time. So just like the
Okay.
fetching data from the internet, and we
Uh,
can pass a callback functions to an operations, and it
okay.
runs after the operation completes, and it will allow the rest
Mm-hmm.
of our code to run without waiting for the operation to finish. So this is how the
Okay.
callbacks are used in synchronous.
Okay. Can you please describe how to manipulate the DOM using JavaScript?
Okay, so in order to manipulate the DOM by using the JavaScript, we can actually use the methods like document dot get element by ID, or we can also use the document dot query selector to select the element.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can actually change their properties, and we can also change their styles or content.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we can change the text of an element, and we can add new element to the page as well. So this is how we can actually manipulate the DOM by using the JavaScript.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you please explain the use of null and undefined types?
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, the null and undefined both represent the absence of value, and, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and basically the undefined means the variable that has been declared but not assigned a value. And when we talk
Okay.
about the null, so it is used when we want to intentionally represent no value. So basically,
Okay.
undefined happens automatically, and while null is set explicitly by the programmer. So yeah, this
Okay.
is the user.
How do these two values differ?
Okay, so when we talk about the difference between two, so the undefined means
Mm-hmm.
a variable that has been created but not given a single value. And
Okay.
null is actually a value we can assign to a variable when we want it to
Mm-hmm.
represent no value on actually a purpose. So
Okay.
undefined is used when something hasn't been set yet, and while null is used directly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. So what are the implications of using null versus undefined?
Okay, so basically the using null shows us purposely to set a variable to have no value, and it will making our code intention clear. And by using the undefined means might mean that we can forget to assign a value, and actually understanding the difference between these two actually help us to avoid bugs, and it will ensure our code behaves as expected. So this is the
Okay.
implication of using. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So moving ahead, how does for each differ from using a traditional for loop?
Okay, so basically the for each is simpler and cleaner than a traditional for loop because it automatically handles the iterations over each array element, and then runs a function on them. So it's unlike for each. So it's unlike the tradition. So for each cannot break
Mm-hmm.
out loop early, and it will make it less flexible but more concise for simple operation. So this is how.
Okay. Can for each modify the original array?
Yeah, actually, for each can modify the original array. So it loops through
Okay.
each element, and if we want to change an element inside the loop, the original array is updated. So it doesn't change
Okay.
the array length and add or add a new element. So it just changes the value of existing element. So yeah, for each can actually modify the original.
Okay. Okay. What is the purpose of the date object in JavaScript?
Okay, so basically the date object in JavaScript is used to
Mm-hmm.
work with the dates and time. So it will allow us to create, and it will allow us to manage and format date, as well as to perform calculations like getting the current
Mm-hmm.
date, time, or we can actually finding the difference between the 2 days. So this is the purpose of, yeah, object in
Okay.
JavaScript. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you create a new date object representing the current time?
Okay, so to create a new date object representing the current time, we can use actually the date constructor without any argument. So simply
Mm-hmm.
we can write the new date, and it will create a date object. So with the current date and time. So this is how we can
Okay.
create. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what methods are available to format dates?
So to actually format dates in JavaScript, we can use the methods just like two
Okay.
date strings and four readable date, and
Mm,
we can also
mm-hmm.
use two time string for actually for readable time. And we
Okay.
actually have our two local date strings for local specified date, and we also have two local time string for local specific time. So these are the methods available.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So, moving ahead, explain how scoping works in JavaScript.
Okay, so basically in JavaScript, scoping determines where variables can be accessed. And actually,
Mm,
there are the two main types of variables. So the global scope, where variables
mm-hmm.
are accessible everywhere. And we have the local
Mm,
scope, where variables are accessible only within the functions or a block they are declared.
mm-hmm.
So Latin
Okay.
concept actually block scope, and while
Mm-hmm.
var has a function scope. So yeah.
Okay. Mm, okay. So, can you tell me what's the difference between global and local scope?
Okay, so basically the global scope means that variables are accessible everywhere in our code, and
Mm-hmm.
local scope means that variables are only accessible within the functions or within the
Okay.
block where they are declared in. So
Mm-hmm.
variable in global scope can be used by any part of the code, and while when we talk about the local variable, so it can only be
Mm,
used within their specific functions, or we can within their specific block as well. So this is
mm,
yeah.
okay. How, yes, okay, got it. How does JavaScript handle block level scope?
Okay, so basically the JavaScript can actually handle the block level scope with let and con. So the
Mm,
variable declared with let and con inside the blocks are only accessible within that block. So this means that they can't be used outside of the block. So it will our code make more secure and organized. So yeah, this is
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so moving ahead, actually, now I'll give you a coding question. So basically,
Okay.
you have to develop a counter app. Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
so just
Please
wait a second. I have to
share.
switch my
Yes,
battery
yes, share
server.
your screen.
Just wait a second.
Oh, okay, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share your question with you. That's a
Okay.
coding question, machine coding, something like that. And
Okay.
it's a counter app, and you have to develop a counter app. Okay. So
Okay.
can you please share your screen? And
Okay.
meanwhile, I'm just sharing what you have to do is. So basically, you have to develop a simple application with two buttons labeled plus and minus. Okay.
Okay.
Where the plus button is clicked, increment a counter displayed on the screen by one. Okay,
Okay.
means when someone clicked on plus one, so there should be a increment in a counter that would be displayed on the screen by one. Okay, and
Okay.
when the minus button is clicked, there
Mm-hmm.
should be decrement the counter by one, and
Okay.
the counter should start at zero.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So please share
So
your screen and
okay.
start coding now.
Just wait a second. Can I add some little bit CSS?
Yes, it's up to you. You can add.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have to create a counter button. So I have to actually create a two button with plus and minus. So am I right?
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There should be two button plus and minus, and counter should start from zero.
Okay. Got it.
Yes.
I have to just this. Okay. So let me add some basic CSS in it. Okay. So
Yes, yes, you are
okay
going good.
now. Okay, now I'm going to give a logic.
Yeah, yeah, right logic here.
Yes. Yes, so now I have to add the event listener to this button. So
Yeah, yeah.
Now I have to add this percent because I have to put all number
Yes, yes.
into the integer
Mm-hmm.
so that I can change it
Mm-hmm.
later. And
Yes, yes.
so,
Yeah, go ahead.
so,
Now, if increment button is clicked, then you have to increase.
yeah, I have to click this button.
Otherwise,
Yeah, just uh, yes. Am I right? So I just do it. I've done with
mm-hmm.
increment button with plus one. So I create a logic here. So I just
Mm-hmm.
convert it. Yeah. Now
Mm-hmm.
I have to add the event listener on decrement button. So this one.
Mm-hmm. So I think it would be the same as the above one,
Yeah.
only just it should be done decrement.
No, I have to create a logic because the counter should start from zero. So I have to create
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's, just- it's- it's- think logic is yeah, this. No, here I put
Mm-hmm.
the logic. So if it is the current value is greater
Get.
than one, so it will actually reduce the till zero. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, I understood. Got it, got it. Yeah, I think it's correct.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's done from my end.
So,
Okay, thank you.